Hi, Casual Gaming Geek here, and I just got done watching that insane Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and I just wanted to quickly go over my thoughts on it. I'm not going to go over not going to go over everything because there were a lot of third-party games shown, and I'm not really going to go over them. I'm mainly just going to go over the first-party Nintendo stuff and my thoughts on the actual system itself and what they showed. So let's get started. So they started out here. First off, they have a new opening for Direct. I hope this is just for this Direct because I prefer the intro for the previous Directs. But that's obviously not why we're here. We are here for this. So this is a look at the new Mario Kart that we got teased in the official reveal trailer for the console. So this is Mario Kart World. And to say the least, this looks awesome. Here, we're going to skip ahead a bit. First off, you can see there is actually 24 karts racing at a time, which is what we were expecting from the previous trailer, and that looks pretty cool. It's probably going to be pretty chaotic, and I assume there'll be an option to knock it down to 12 or 8 racers just to keep things a little bit less crazy. Unfortunately, they didn't show off any sort of double dash mode, which I'm annoyed about. So looking here, it's Mario Kart, which is what we were expecting, obviously. But they did show off a few new things that they didn't actually really talk about. And actually, the first one was just back here. Where'd it go? This is really hard to navigate this thing. Alright. So, the first new feature they showed off is this. Boat racing. So, I guess they took some inspiration from Wave Race or something like that. Oh, actually, there's also a path over here that's not on the water. But, so there's a boat mode, so it's not just going under the water, you're actually racing on top. I'm going to assume going into boat mode is going to change how your kart handles, which is going to be pretty cool, obviously. And then the other new racing mode they showed off is this. So, in Mario Kart 7 and 8... 7? Yeah. We had gliders, and the gliders are pretty cool. I have nothing against them. They're really neat. But here they're showing off what I'm pretty sure is a more powered flight mode. You can see it better. Yeah, like there. The gliders now look like planes, which makes me think you have powered flight, which will be really cool. And then one other new feature they showed off. Oh yeah, so here's another look at racing on the water. But, let's see. Oh yeah, that's a good look at the powered flight. But yeah, then there's this. What the heck is this? So you're riding on the rail here on a single, or on 2 wheels, which is cool enough. But then they showed off you're doing wall jumps on a cart. And we'll get to that in a minute. You're doing wall jumps like in a 3D Mario game, but while riding in a cart, which is just insane. It's going to probably make it a bit more complicated, probably a bit more difficult to pull off some of these tricks, I would assume, but it looks so cool. And then there's this. They brought in the Moo Moo Meadows cow, which is the stupidest thing ever, and I love it. Like, you got the giant mushroom back. I didn't even take note of that when I was first watching it. Coin box. Some power-ups. You take control of this giant big rig and you can flatten other racers. And then there's eating food to change. It looks like changing costumes during the race. I'm assuming that's going to be some sort of power-up separate from the items. They didn't show off whether or not it was just cosmetic. I don't think that's going to be just cosmetic. I think that's going to be actually changing how you race. Oh my gosh, look at that. Hang on, I just noticed a new character. The snowman is a playable character now. Oh, that is cool. No pun intended. Oh, that is really neat. Okay, we got double item boxes again, which is to be expected. Hopefully you can swap between them like you could in Double Dash, instead of like it is in Mario Kart 8, where you have to use one, then use the other. They still didn't show off any sort of double dash mode, which I'm upset about. I want a double dash mode, but it's not the end of the world. Oh, Kamek. So, it almost looks like Kamek here is an item. Now, I think we've had raceable Kamek before. I think we have a raceable Kamek now in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So I don't know if he's going to be a racer and an item or what, but it looks like he's an item here. Probably doing something similar to the Boo. We'll have to wait and see. We don't know much about that yet. I haven't noticed him as a racer. Let's see. I don't see Kamek as a racer. So this is Mario Kart. So this game is Mario Kart World. And what they end up talking about here is the fact that this is an open world Mario Kart. They don't actually refer to it as that, but it is an open world Mario Kart. So the direct that goes on to talk about how you can go anywhere in this game. There's no borders. You can just basically go off-roading, do whatever you want. But the big thing is, in Grand Prix mode, you actually drive between the tracks. So you finish a track, and then you have to drive to the next track, and you go basically around this entire world, which is really cool. I don't know why it took them so long to think of this, doing an open world Mario Kart, but it's neat. But then they also talk about later on in the direct how there is a free roam. Oh, there's a whole bunch of modes. There's the Grand Prix mode. There's a knockout mode. But the big one for me is the fact that there is actually a free roam mode where you can just log in and you can just drive around wherever you want, explore to your heart's content, and I love that. Nintendo's been slowly giving us more and more open world experiences, like with Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and now we're getting an open world Mario Kart, which I don't know how it took them so long to think about this. Maybe this is something they were intending on doing on the original Switch, but for some reason they couldn't quite get it right, and that's why they released Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Maybe. But this is a no-brainer, and I am super excited for this. And I particularly love the free roam because it's kind of the opposite of Mario Kart 8. And my little brother complains about this all the time, that in Mario Kart 8, you try to go off-road, you immediately get pulled back and put back on the track. You try and find shortcuts, you get put back on the track. They got rid of a whole bunch of shortcuts in some of the retro tracks. So it's nice that they're basically doing the opposite here, where it's like, you want to go off-roading? Fine, go off-roading. You'll lose the race, but you can do whatever you want. And I think that's just so neat. That is such a cool idea, and I'm really happy they're doing it. So they did also announce that there is going to be a separate Mario Kart World Direct on April 17th. I probably won't be covering that on this channel. Maybe I will. Depends on how interesting it is. But so we're going to get more information about the game there. What more they can tell us, I don't know. Maybe other game modes, like different battle modes. Maybe they'll tell us what those different costumes are for, if they're just cosmetic, or if they're or if they have some sort of effect. We'll see. So there will be that direct on April 17th. Definitely look out for that. It's going to be interesting, I'm sure. And they did confirm that this game is actually going to be a launch title for the Switch 2, I believe. They did. So after we got that look at Mario Kart World, which again looks so cool, they actually gave us a more in-depth look at not just the console, but actually a feature they seem to be pushing very heavily here, which is there is actually now in-game or on-console chat options. So that they started out by showing us that on the new Joy-Cons there is this C button, which I think it was earlier this week or late last week that Nintendo updated their official renders for the console to show the C button, because prior to this, we didn't know what this was. It was an unmarked button. We assumed it was just a second capture button. So we now know it is the C button. And the C, it turns out, is for chat. So they're showing us that they now have built-in voice chat, which is something that some people were hoping Nintendo would do. I personally don't really care. But some people were hoping for this and were anticipating it. And it looks interesting. So you can see here that they show you have your game playing here, and then you got 4 chat windows here now. I assume one of these is you, and that you can only chat with up to 4 people at a time. And it's built-in voice chat. And they talk about how they have a microphone on the console, and that is what they use for the voice chat. As far as we know, there's not actually a microphone built into the controllers, and I don't know if that's going to be a good idea. Because they say it's a long-range microphone and it can work from across the room. I don't know how well that's actually going to work, if it's actually going to be able to pick up your voice easy enough, or if you're going to have to talk really loud. We'll have to wait and see how that works. They say it should be able to work across the room, though. We'll have to see. Wait and see. So yeah, you have this here, and it's a voice chat, and so these people are here all playing Mario Kart together. And there are some actually some kind of neat features they have with this. So, again, it's an in-game chat. You have you can join your chat, and I guess it's basically you have a chat room that you connect to with your friends. I don't, as far as we know, it's not going to be just like open, like if you're online doing Mario Kart with strangers. As far as we know, you're not going to be able to like chat with the strangers as you pass them. It's probably not proximity chat, or actually, we know it's not going to be proximity chat. So yeah, you can see here this is used, demonstrating how the microphone is on the console to pick up people's voices. This will also be, probably won't work very well like if your console's like behind your TV or something like that, or in a cabinet. So it's probably going to be a little, you're probably going to need a specific setup to get this to work properly, I would think. And I am sure there is a specific range in which it can work. We will have to wait and see what that's like. Um, they talk about how it's got some noise cancellation, built-in noise cancellation, so it gets rid of the ambient sounds and gameplay sounds, so that it isolates just your voice, which is something like we would see in Zoom. Zoom's got great voice isolation, so it's probably very similar to that and how it works, which is good. You're going to need that. Then this feature they showed off. This is something I actually have an issue with. They showed off that you can actually share your screen. So, instead of having like your image in the chat window, which you can also do, I'll get to that later. There's screen sharing, which is neat. It looks very good, or it looks like it'll be fun. Except if you pay attention here, it's so choppy. The frame rate on the screen sharing, it looks like a slideshow. Now that might be what they're doing. So, my thought is, so they don't sacrifice performance, they may be basically sending it as a series of images instead of an actual video stream. That's probably what this is for the screen sharing, just so you don't sacrifice the performance or to account for delay in your internet or whatever. But like you can see here, Toad here. You can see here, like the Mario's screen here is this one down in the bottom left. And you can see the screen share is so choppy compared to the actual gameplay. I don't know how much people are going to care about that. And maybe there's settings to change how it sends the data so that you can actually get a smoother stream. Like if you really want to show somebody how to do something properly. But that's... I don't know. I really don't like that the screen share is so choppy. We'll have to see if that's going to be improved upon or if there's settings for that. So then here they show that you don't actually need to be playing the same game to be in a chat. So we got somebody here playing Animal Crossing, Mario Wonder, Nintendo Switch Online, NES, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So you can all be playing different games, and it's not actually a per game thing, and this is why I think it's not going to have any sort of proximity chat. Maybe there will be a proximity chat mode, but I think this is just basically like a chat room, like you open a Discord and you can talk with your friends. That's probably what this is, or that's what this looks like here, which is kind of neat. I don't really have anyone that I would be using this feature with, most likely. My cousin probably I will, but in general, I don't really have any use for this. But it is a neat feature I know a lot of people have been wanting, so it's very good that they're finally doing something like this. Now, obviously, you're not going to want obviously, you're not going to want to be talking with strangers on this, and parents aren't going to want people to talk with strangers. So I'm going to assume it's going to be just with your friends, and it's not going to be rooms for different games. Maybe there will be rooms for games, like if there's a Mario Kart tournament around the world, but you never know what a stranger's going to say, and they probably won't open this up as a general chat room. And they do talk about later on that there's a Nintendo Parental Controls app on your phone for controlling, doing parental controls and stuff on your child's Nintendo Switch, and this is compatible with this, and you can set up whether, if they have permission to go on whenever they want, or how long they can stay on there and do the voice chat stuff. But yeah, so and basically opening up the menu for controlling the voice chat is what that C button is for. I assume that's all the C button's going to be used for. Like, you probably won't be able to remap it. Okay, and then this is the other thing. So you probably won't be able to remap it. It'll probably just be for opening up the chat, which is fine. I can anticipate probably people accidentally pressing that button when they don't want to, and it'll probably be annoying. So maybe there'll be some way to completely disable it. We'll have to see. And then there's this. So it does actually support using a camera, and there's other things that they're using the camera for. And this seems to me like something that is going to be kind of a novelty, and not many people are ever going to buy this. I think this is a camera that you buy as an add-on for your console. Almost like, I think it was the Xbox Kinect, I think it was what it was called, that it was more of a gimmick than anything else. So this is a camera on a stick, plugs into the top USB port on the Switch 2. Because the Switch 2 has two USB ports, and we now know one of the features for the top one is plugging in the camera. And it allows you to put your face in with your chat. So you can have your face, your voice chat, and the gameplay there, along with some other features that we'll go over later with the camera. And it's neat. I like it. And actually, I want to point out, it's neat that they have virtual green screen. So, all right, they're not showing it here. They're showing just you if you're not screen sharing. But if you're screen sharing, it's got a virtual green screen so that it shows just your face, which is kind of cool. It's neat technology, and it's nice that they're integrating it. And then here's what they're also showcasing, that, you know, you got your voice chat. These people are all playing a Mario Party together, and it shows your image, if you're using the camera, it shows your image on each of the player icons, so you know what place you're in, who's in what position, what character you are. So like this woman here is playing as Mario, and that's really cool. And they show off later on, I have to point out that this actually works locally, that if you're like sitting doing couch co-op, or you know, playing that Mario Party together, that it actually keeps track of which person is which character locally, which is really cool. So overall I like the chat feature. It's really cool, but it's really cool, and I know a lot of people have been looking forward to this, so I'm happy for the people who are excited for it. My only major issue is the choppiness of the screen sharing, but we'll have to see if that's going to be improved in the future. Now, I believe later on, talking about the camera with other things, they do mention that the USB camera, or they just say plugging in USB cameras. They don't specify that it has to be the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, so it looks like this is also going to be compatible with just a general USB webcam. Like, you know, if you have a webcam for your computer, you probably will be able to use that, which again makes me think that chances are almost nobody's going to buy the stupid Nintendo Switch one. Yeah, so that is kind of nice that they're doing that as a general USB camera feature. So yeah, and then yeah, you can see here they show that this is one of the features that you can use with that top USB-C port, which we were wondering about, and they did also say later on that it is also used for charging. But yeah, so this thing, it's not going to sell. I'm sorry, it's not. It almost seems like a gimmick, and I highly doubt there's going to be a lot of games that support it. We'll have to wait and see. So the game chat, of course, you need Nintendo Switch Online for, but they actually are going to have it be free for a limited time. Basically, is open access to get people used to it, and basically, I like that they're doing that as the open access period to get people to actually do it. It's another selling point for Nintendo Switch Online. People are going to use it. People are going to be like, oh, this is kind of neat, and it's going to get them to buy more Nintendo Switch Online memberships, which is good. So this is another feature they showed off, which I think is awesome, and it's called Game Share. So what they're showing here is this console is the only one that has this game, but they included a feature that's kind of like on the DS. There was a DS download play option where, like, you know, if you have Kirby Superstar Ultra, you could do the download play so that somebody could play with you. Sometimes it was often a limited version, and so somebody that doesn't have the game can do stuff with you on a different DS. Like, I think Super Mario 64 DS, I believe, had an option for that, you know, download play support, and it was like only mini games or something like that. And you only needed one cartridge to be able to do that. So they brought that kind of thing back. So they call it Game Share here. but it works exactly the same way, except it looks like it's the full game. You get the full game experience. And they show off here, and I love this. So you got one console here with the game. It's a Nintendo Switch 2. And then you got a Nintendo Switch 2 here without the game. But it is actually going to be supported on Nintendo Switch 1 and even Nintendo Switch Lite. So say, let's say your sibling has a Nintendo Switch already and you buy a Nintendo Switch 2, you can use that feature with them without having to buy a second console, which I think is great. Obviously, Nintendo Switch 2 games I would assume, aren't going to be able to work via this option with Nintendo Switch 1 if you're sharing, but it's neat. So yeah, you see, it works with all of these. Nintendo Switch Lite plays all games that support handheld mode. Obviously, within the limitations of the system on what you can do. And you can also do online play, so like you can game share online with your friends. So if you live in New Jersey and you have a friend in Pennsylvania, you can share your game with them and play together with the new game chat feature that they've added over the internet. And I think that's great. I love that. That is really cool. A nice way to be able to connect with your friends, and that it's neat that they're adding that in. Here's something I want to point out though. So they show some Nintendo Switch 1 games that will have a software updates to be able to support this feature. And the one I want to point out here is Mario Odyssey. They have Mario Odyssey listed that it's going to get an update for this game share. But that's a single player game. Why would there be oh no, it's not single player. There is, so you can have a second player play as Cappy. I forgot about that. Okay, never mind. That's fine. I thought they were adding a multiplayer mode, but there already is one that I just have never used. I completely forgot about that. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, this is one of the best things that came out of this Direct, in my opinion, because it's like the DS download play, and that's a really cool feature, and it means that basically I'll be able to buy a game, and, other people in my house will be able to play it with me, whether they want to or not. All right, so after they gave us the look at those new features, like, basically features to get people to play together more, they gave us an actual better look at the hardware of the console itself. And they go over both the actual console and some changes to the dock. So let's take a look at that. All right, so first of all, it's a bigger screen, but the console's same thickness. So it's a 7.9-inch display now, whereas the original Switch they show is 16.2. I don't remember what the Switch OLED is. I'm going to have to look that up. But so the base model of this, and I'll go over why I say base model, is 7.9-inch screen, and they show off that the console is actually the same thickness as the original. So they go with the bigger screen. I don't know why they highlighted the same thickness, but that's nice. And of course, this is what everybody was hoping and anticipating. It is now a higher resolution display. It is a 1080p display, which is awesome, because the 720p handheld, it looks fine, but everybody wanted a nice HD display, so this is one of the main upgrades that people were hoping the console would have. So it's nice they confirmed that. But then they also talk about how the console itself in handheld mode will support up to 120 FPS. Now it says only in compatible games, and I assume they mean in handheld mode because they're showing off in the handheld section. So you'll be able to play some games 1080p 120 FPS, which is just insane. Now nobody can complain about, people love to complain about the Switch and the low resolution, the frame rate issues. Nobody can complain about it now, since they confirmed that in handheld mode it'll be able to go up to 120 FPS. So it's obviously a lot more powerful console. Now, this is why I think this is a base model of the console, that it is an LCD, it says Vivid LCD with HDR support. It's not an OLED screen, it's an LCD. So I think there will be another model of this console later on that will be an OLED model. That's probably going to be more expensive, but for now it's an LCD with HDR support, which is nice. So basically you get much more vibrant colors, and this HDR support is supported in both handheld and docked mode. Okay, so then they go over the Joy-Con 2 and how it attaches magnetically, which we figured it was magnetic, or I think I don't remember if they actually said it was magnetic in the original reveal trailer. They make a point though to show off that it's super strong. You can't just pull it off. But and then they show to detach the Joy-Cons, there's this big knobbly button on the back that you got to press in and then it removes. I don't like that. That button is too big, too easy to press. I have a feeling that people are going to all the time accidentally detach their Joy-Cons and mess up their game. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that that's going to be something that people complain about. If it is, then you heard it here first. All right, so now they go over a couple other features of the Joy-Con 2, which is some things I'm not super happy about. So bigger SLSR. So these buttons were tiny on the original Joy-Cons. They're much bigger here, which looks, it looks good. If you're doing the handheld mode, you don't want to put the strap connector on. That is great. So then they talk about the control sticks a little bit, and they say that basically it's bigger, so it's easier to use. That's all they said about the joysticks. They did not say if they're going to be a different type of sensor that will be less prone to drifting. And throughout the entire presentation, they did not once mention Joy-Con drift. Now, obviously, Nintendo's not going to want to draw attention to one of the biggest flaws of the best console ever. But they should have at least... I feel like they should have addressed it because it's something that people are concerned about. It's one of the things people are most curious about with this new console is, are they going to fix the Joy-Con drift issue? And they did not address it. I'm assuming that they have addressed it. I'm assuming that the drift will be fixed and it's not going to be a concern on this console, even though they did not say it in this presentation. But that's something to be aware of, that they did not address it, so there is still a chance that there will be Joy-Con drift. That's just the reality. So then they talked about the mouse controls, and this is something that we knew from the previous presentation, how both Joy-Cons can act as a mouse, and you got mouse controls for some games. I feel like that's going to just be a gimmick. It's not going to be something that's going to be used in a lot of games. Now, first-person shooters and stuff, and they show one later, big one, that uses it. That's fantastic for those types of games, and I'm sure basically every first-person shooter for this console is going to support the mouse controls, and that's probably going to be really good, and people are going to love that. But outside of, like Mario parties, other things are just going to, it'll be used as a gimmick, but I don't think it's going to be used much outside of first-person shooter games. They talk about the speakers are better, and they changed how they mix the audio to make the sounds better coming out of the speakers built into the console, which is good for handheld players. I never really had a problem, though, with the speakers on either the original Switch or my OLED model. I have no problem with the speakers that are built into the console, but I'll be curious to see what kind of improvements there are on this one. They mentioned again the built-in microphone, and they do say that it works well across the room. I don't trust that. I don't think it will, but we'll see. We'll see how that works. They do showcase how it's got the voice isolation, which you kind of need. And then, so some games are going to support 3D audio, which is a feature we've seen on various other things, various Apple devices and PC games and whatever, supporting 3D audio. So it's basically a virtual surround sound, which is cool. We'll have to wait and see how well it works. Now, it does say here, 3D audio support via built-in speakers requires a system update, which makes me think it's probably not going to be ready at launch on, or at least the built-in speakers. It's not going to be ready at launch. It'll probably only work with headphones at launch, I'm thinking, which is fine. I don't really care. That's not a concern for me. So then they go over the fact, so there's a better stand with much more freely adjustable angles. The stand, like the OLED, is the entire width of the console. So the original Switch, actually I got my original Switch right here. So the original Switch, the stand was just this flimsy piece of plastic. It was this flimsy piece of plastic. It was just this little section on the console, and it kind of sucked. Everybody hated it. The OLED, they did improve it, that it's basically this entire back flap opens up, and it works well. It's great. This one looks kind of like the OLED one, where it's the entire width of the console, but instead of being the entire back, it's kind of just a cutout here, and it's a much thinner thing. I don't know why they did that, because frankly, I have no issue with how the OLED stand works, but they say it's improved. We'll have to see how well it works. I mean, the fact that it's so freely adjustable to such a wide angle is kind of nice. If you're like, yeah, looking at how flat this is here, yeah, that's really good. Like if you're just playing like on a plane or something, and you have such a confined space, you can set it to whatever angle you want. That is a really nice feature. So good job Nintendo on that kickstand. It is nice. And then they point out the 2 USB-C ports, and this is where they say it works with USB-C cameras. They don't specify that it has to be the Nintendo camera in this section, which is cool. And they do all, say, so compatible USB camera required for video features. But I think by compatible, they just mean USB-C. And they point out, and they point out that while it's in tabletop mode, you can use it for charging. And they actually show off, and they didn't mention it, but they showed that there's actually an external power brick, so you don't have to use the power brick for the dock. Because as it is right now, you have to use the same power brick for the dock because it doesn't come with another one. So it looks like it's going to come with either a separate power brick, or maybe the one for the dock doesn't have an attached cord that you can unplug the dock and plug the console in separate without having to fight with the wires behind it. So that's a nice feature. They didn't talk about that. They just showed it here, which is nice. So then the onboard storage they have upgraded. So the original Switch had 32 gig of onboard storage. The new one has 256 gig, which is great. Now I play all physical games, so I don't need it so much for the game storage, but people who play digital games are going to love this, not having to offload your games as often. And they talk about how the storage is faster, so they show off here the loading time for Yoshi is a lot faster on the Switch too. Which I don't, I never had an issue with the loading times on the original Switch, but yeah, then again, I use the cartridge, so I don't know how it is with the digital download games. But yeah, so that's pretty nice. So they went over a few features of the dock here, which I don't hate the design of the dock. It looks kind of bulbous, but it's a little more elegant having the back and everything be rounded as opposed to the original Switch dock, which is very pointy. So they show off here. You got your AC adapter, your HDMI out, and there is a built-in Ethernet port. So on the original Switch, it's only the OLED model that has the dock with the built-in Ethernet port. You got that here built into the base model dock, which is great. I love that. And you saw there were actually USB ports on the side, same as there are in this one. So the dock supports 4K output, which is something we were anticipating. And actually, here they show here, we were anticipating 4K output. So it does say frame rate is fixed to a maximum of 4K 60 FPS, which is great. That is fantastic. That is one of the major things that everybody wanted for this new console. And we have it confirmed that it is a 4K console, the first 4K Nintendo console, and I'm very excited for that. Now, I don't own a 4K TV. The family room TV is 4K. I'm going to have to probably buy a 4K TV for myself for playing this, but they do show that you actually can set in the system settings what resolution TV you're playing on. So it can automatically select, or you can say, you can lock it to 720p, 1080p, 1440p, or 2160 4K. So you can set your resolution by yourself, or you can set your max resolution to whatever you want. So if you only have a HD TV like me, 1080p, you can play your games at 1080p. It doesn't show here, but there's this dock output information, which I assume will tell you, you'll probably be able to set what your max frame rate you want to output is. I would assume. I might be wrong, but I would assume that you'll have an option to set the max frame rate. So if you only want to display 60 FPS, so if you're, 1080p, you don't need more frames, it'll probably lock it to that, which will be nice. Basically make your gameplay more smooth, less choppy, less drops in frame rate. The dock has a built-in fan now, which I didn't even realize. Actually, when we were watching this presentation, they said built-in fan. I'm like, wait, what? The Switch has one. But this is for the dock. And I don't know how well this is going to work. Mainly because basically you need to have good contact between the console and whatever heat sink is pulling the heat into the fan on the dock for it to work. But I mean, at least the original Switch, it's not held super tightly in the dock. It's got some wiggle room. This is going to have to be pressed pretty tight against it to efficiently transfer the heat to the dock to be exhausted. Now, this may be just saying it's for the dock's cooling, probably not. Maybe it's not saying it's cooling the console, but it makes it seem like this is for helping to cool the console in addition to the built-in fan. And I don't know how well that's going to actually work, because if they want to actually cool the console, they're going to have to make the dock pretty tight, which could lead to scratching up your console. We'll have to wait and see. And again, that may just be for cooling the dock. That may not be intended to help cool the console at all. They may still just rely on the built-in fan, which you can see is still there. So then they did emphasize again that this will be playing supported Nintendo Switch 1 games, which we knew. They still didn't say what games are supported or what make a game not supported. They haven't given us any clarification on that. Again, I'm going to assume it's things that like use the IR sensor that's on the bottom of the Joy-Cons. That's what I'm going to assume be the type of game that's not supported. So yeah, the console itself looks like it's actually going to be a lot more powerful than the Switch 1, which is one of the main things people wanted, because a lot of people complained that they think the original Switch was an underpowered console. It's just 1080p with lots of frame drops, often 30 FPS or lower, in an era where it's all about, oh, you got to have 4K, and you got to have the best looking visuals, and you got to have 800 frames per second, which I always hated. I think it's more important that you have good games, which the Switch has an amazing library, so I don't really care so much that the original Switch had lots of frame drops and problems like that. Now, I'm not upset about higher resolution and higher frame rates, but I know a lot of people were hoping for that and were not happy about the performance of the original Switch, so this should help a lot of people feel better, because this console definitely looks a lot more powerful. If it can do 4K 60, if it can do 120 FPS, 1080p handheld, it'll be great. Now, we'll have to see what kind of battery life it's going to get doing 1080p 120 FPS handheld. I've never had any issues with battery life on my Switch. I'll play handheld, and like sometimes I'll bring my Switch up to my room and I'll play handheld a couple of nights before bed, and the battery holds out fine. So it's probably not going to be a major concern, but the higher resolutions, higher frame rates, you're not going to get as much battery life, so it may be a little bit less than the original Switch unless they go with a higher capacity battery. So, after doing this showcase of the actual console, Nintendo showed off something a little weird, which is, I mean, that's kind of par for the course for Nintendo here. So, they showed off this. It's a game they're developing. I assume it'll be available at launch, where you're walking around on the console, and there's little signs you can get information about the Switch 2 console. The Joy-Cons and the console itself. And there's also mini games built in for if you want to, there's also mini games built in to let you try out some of the features and learn about the console. Watching the Direct, I thought this was just bizarre. I had no idea why Nintendo would be showing something like this. But then thinking about it, I realized this is, I think, Nintendo learning from some of their past mistakes. So, one of the biggest issues with the Wii U was people didn't know what it was. The marketing was terrible, but people didn't know, okay, is it a Wii? Is it an add-on for the Wii? And, a lot of that just came from the fact that it had the same naming convention, it could play Wii games, and it looked a lot like the Wii. One of my concerns with this console was that a lot of what they're doing here seems very reminiscent of the Wii U, which makes me concerned that it's going to fail like the Wii U. But that's why it's good that Nintendo's come out with this. They're calling the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. And granted, it's paid, but it's just a little, like, it looks like a minigame collection. But I think this is designed to showcase the fact that this isn't just a another Switch, that it's designed, I think, to showcase the unique features that make this console different and better compared to the original Switch. If Nintendo had something like this for the Wii U, I feel like it probably would have done a lot better, because it would have showcased how this new console is different, even though it looks very similar and it's named the same. So I like that. I love that Nintendo's doing this, even though it seems a little weird. I probably will get that just to check it out and see what it's like, but it's not everyone's going to get it. The fact though that it's a paid game, it's probably not going to sell super well. It should be a free thing, I think, but we'll see. So Nintendo showed off the new game cards here, and they show that it looks basically the same. As far as we can tell, they're the same size. And the only difference they really pointed out, besides the fact that the new ones have faster read speeds, which will be nice, I guess, is that it's red. That's really the main thing that they pointed out, and they made an emphasis like the new ones are red. Okay, so obviously they're the same size because you can play physical Nintendo Switch 1 games on the new console. My question is, I assume they're going to have some sort of, basically the geometry is going to be slightly different, I would assume, so that you can't put these games into a Switch 1. Probably, similar to Game Boy Advance, how the cartridges for Game Boy Advance had a different geometry to Game Boy Color and original Game Boy, so that you could use the old ones in the new system, but you can't use the new cartridges in the old system. Or like the Game Boy Color not being able to use most of those games in an original Game Boy. It's going to be similar to that. I assume basically the shell will have some sort of slightly different geometry. And then there's this. I'm very confused about this. So you can insert a micro SD card into your Switch, your original Switch, to increase your storage, which is great. I have one in mind mainly just for being able to store more videos as I play my games. Since I don't download games, that's not really why I had it. I had it mainly just for photo and video storage. And of course, you can use micro SD cards on this one, but they specified that you can only use micro SD express cards, which I don't know what are. As far as I can tell, they're just a faster micro SD card. I don't understand why Nintendo specified that you need micro SD express except for just faster read speeds, but they specify you cannot use just standard micro SD cards, so you can't use the same micro SD card that you're using on your original Switch. And I can anticipate this is going to cause a lot of confusion and a lot of frustration, mainly for parents or grandparents who are going to buy a micro SD card for your kid's Switch, and it's not going to work. I anticipate this is going to be causing a lot of confusion, and I have a feeling that there's going to be a software updates to allow support for original micro SD cards later on, because people are going to complain. And then, of course, you can transfer your data from your original Switch to your Switch 2, which is nice. That's not really anything, that's not really anything big or groundbreaking. We assumed you'd be able to transfer your save data. They did show off the Switch 2 Pro Controller. And, of course we were going to get one. And it looks very much like the original Pro Controller. So I have a Pro Controller here, and you can see it is very similar. It's got the exact same button layout, except for the fact that between the D-pad and the right control stick, you have the chat button, which is nice, being able to use the chat even with the Pro Controller that you don't have to use the Joy-Cons for. Because I'm rarely going to use Joy-Cons on this thing. It does have a couple other features, though. So they show off that you've got GR and GL buttons that are user assignable, they say, that basically you can set them to do something else. So like if you want one of those buttons to be plus instead of having to use the plus button, you can do that. And they show off that it's got a 3.5mm audio jack built in. Apple, take notes. Which is nice, actually. I really like that. And that's something that was on the Wii U gamepad, that there was an audio jack. I'm pretty sure there was an audio jack on the gamepad so that you can plug in and play your game without distracting people. You can have the sound in your headphones, and I would assume it would disable the sound on the TV, which I love. I think that's a great feature. Again, I probably won't use that often, since most of the time I'm not going to be disturbing people with my gameplay, but that is a really nice feature that they added to this controller. I don't think there's an audio jack on the Joy-Cons, just on the Pro Controller, but that is really nice. And they did not actually give a release date for the Pro Controller, and at the end of the presentation, they go over things that are going to be available at launch hardware-wise, so it'll be the console and then a bundle with Mario Kart. They did not actually specify that the Pro Controller will be available at launch, which I don't understand. I don't know why it wouldn't be available at launch, but it looks like it probably won't be. And then, of course, they had to give the release date for the console here. So, okay. Oh, their website is going live. It's probably live by the time I'm recording this. But after the presentation, the Switch 2 website will be going live. I will be looking over that, seeing what kind of information's up there. And I believe they do specify here the release date is June 5th. So we still have to wait a few months. No, actually, no, wait. Yeah, 2 months. We have to wait 2 months for the console, but that's fine. And pre-orders are not actually available right now. I think there was some sort of press release shortly after the Direct, or maybe during the Direct, that said that pre-orders will be going live for it a week from I think it's a week from today, on April 9th, I believe is what I read. I will put it on screen if that's wrong. But so we will be getting our pre-orders next week. It's not nice that we don't have to rush right after the Direct to do that. I will definitely be pre-ordering everything that's available physical-wise. I'm not going to be pre-ordering digital games. I don't do digital games. So then they did something a little weird, and they talked about that there's 3 different types of games that you can play on this console.
The first type is Nintendo Switch 2 games.
So Nintendo Switch 2 games, so these are Nintendo Switch 2 exclusives, games that will not be released on the original Switch, like Mario Kart here. Taking full advantage of the console, which, of course, we expected that. Then compatible Nintendo Switch games, which we knew. They still don't go over what is compatible. But of course, Switch 2 game or original Switch games we knew were going to be able to play on this.
Is compatible games that were released on Nintendo Switch.
And it is physical or digital. But then there's this Nintendo Switch 2 edition. So these are games that were originally released on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm pretty sure they're just talking Switch games, and it's basically updates for these games to add features specific to the Switch 2. So these,
Nintendo Switch 2,
and they went over a few of these games that are being released, and actually later on there was a third-party game that will have one.
Will receive upgraded versions that offer things
So,
like improved visuals, unique ways to play on Switch 2, and more.
Yeah, improved visuals, unique ways to play. So we'll go over some of them. So they started out with Super Mario Party Jamboree, which they showed earlier in the Direct when they were talking about the chat features. So that there's a new version of Mario Party Jamboree that makes use of like the mouse controls, or the makes use of the camera. So like they show, showing who's what character here. So it's the same game, but it's an enhanced version, which is kind of nice. And they also show off that there's new game modes. Now, again, I never played the original games, so I don't know, but they show off new game modes where it's like just the people you get put into the console itself. Now, as far as I can tell, and I'm pretty sure they specified that it does work locally. So if you're doing couch co-op, that the camera will work and will distinguish between the different people. I think they mentioned that. I might be wrong. Yeah. And then, basically just other game modes make use of the Switch 2 features, which is nice. I don't anticipate a lot of people are going to care about this one, but it's a nice option. And that's coming. That's not even a launch. That's something I don't get. I don't think any of these Switch 2 edition games that they announced are launch titles, which it seems like they should be since they're already out. We already have those games, so that's a little confusing. So they did point out that if you have the original game, and this applies for all of them, it looks like that. If you have the original game, you can purchase an upgrade pack that it's just a downloadable, an update for the game, so that you don't actually need to buy the game again if you own it on the original Switch, but they are being sold as a physical release specific for the Switch 2, which I will be, some of these games that I want, I will be getting physically the upgrade one instead of just buying the upgrade download card. Oh yeah, this might be where they show off doing the couch co-op. Okay, they don't.
Games.
All right, so now here, this made me so happy. I am such a huge Zelda fan.
Nintendo Switch 2 editions of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild
So we are getting Nintendo Switch 2 editions of both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm going to talk a lot about this. I'm sorry if you're not a Zelda fan, but this is one of the things I'm most excited about from this Direct. So they talk about enhanced resolution and frame rate, which is the main thing that they're showing off here for the Zelda games. That, high resolution, higher frame rate, more stable frame rate. Like you could, here, I'll rewind a little bit. That you can actually see in the Korok Forest here, in Lost Woods, that it's actually stable frame rate, which is something that is a lot of people were complaining about. They added HDR support, which is going to be great because these games are gorgeous, and with HDR, it's going to be amazing. I am very excited for this. And then the other big thing is it's not actually part of the game, but it's actually part of a separate app that it's Zelda Notes, that part of the Nintendo Switch app, which is a thing evidently. I don't know. That there's different features that basically you can communicate between your console and your phone and make use of them. Oh, actually, hang on. The app, current Nintendo Switch Online app will rename to numbers. Okay, so they're renaming the app. That's fine. I don't really care about that because, again, I didn't even know the app existed. So they show off that there'll be, for each game, all sorts of other things like voice memories, which I guess is information about the game, navigation, so it's like a built-in GPS to help you find things like Korok seeds and whatnot. And then there's various achievements, it looks like, photo studio, which I guess that's for if you want to do, editing your pictures. We'll get to this, item sharing, auto build sharing, but, so they're basically, just adding additional features that's not built into the game, but you use your phone for, which I like. And mainly the GPS thing I think is kind of neat. So like, you can say, oh, guide me to this Korok, and there's actually voice that will play and it'll say, okay, go this direction, go north. Yeah, here, proceed north, and it plays that and shows you, so it knows where you are in the game from your phone, which is neat. And then there's this where you auto build and you got your saved schematics in Tears of the Kingdom for things, and you can actually use the app to send the creations online. You can make a QR code and send it to your friends, so your friends can build your contraption that you designed in Tears of the Kingdom, which is so cool. Like that is a neat feature. So yeah, but I'm very excited. I will be picking this up, and this is one that I will be, both of those I'll be picking up physically for this new version. And then Kirby and the Forgotten Land is getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition with Star-Crossed World, which is a new game mode. I'm going to assume it's probably going to be something like Bowser's Fury, where it's kind of not a full game, but like a mini game built in. They did talk about this, but I just love that we're getting more for this game, because this was one of my favorite games on the Switch. It is so good, so it's nice to have a new game mode. I will definitely be picking this up. I like that spring. But yeah, so it's nice. I like that they're doing this. And then this is probably the big one for most people. This right here is going to be the biggest one, that there is so we knew that Metroid Prime 4 was coming to the original Switch. We knew that. I thought they were going to cancel the original Switch one and just have it be a Switch 2 exclusive, but they are still releasing on the original Switch. But Nintendo is releasing a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And this, I feel like this version of the game is going to make the original Switch version completely obsolete, and almost nobody's going to own it. So you should probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to keep it sealed for the original Switch, as it's going to be a collector's item. It's going to be hard to find in the future, because this version makes it completely obsolete. Mainly because it adds mouse support. And so this is what I was talking about earlier with the mouse, that's going to be used a lot in first-person shooters. And so they show that they actually add mouse aiming support to this game, which is going to be so much fun. It's going to make it so much easier to aim in this game than if you're just using the analog stick. Now, I personally probably will mostly still use a Pro Controller, but mouse support is nice. Then they talked about, so the Switch 2 one specifically, it's going to have two modes, quality mode and performance mode. So quality mode, docked, you're going to get 4K, 60 FPS, HDR. It's going to look great. Handheld mode is 1080p, 60 FPS, HDR. Again, going to look great. But then there's a performance mode. So it's going to knock down your resolution in both handheld and docked mode to 1080p docked, 720p in handheld, but it'll not bump up your resolution to, or bump up your frame rate to 120 FPS. Which I don't play a lot of first-person shooters, but I know frame rate actually is often a big factor in how you do in those games. So the fact that they have a mode with a higher frame rate is really nice. So I think, between that and the mouse controls, this version of the game is going to make the regular Switch 1 edition completely obsolete, and I have a feeling that it's not going to sell very well on the original Switch. So I'm going to be picking it up on both just to have, because I feel like it's going to be a collector's item in the future. And then also they talk about their Pokemon Legends ZA is getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition with improved frame rate and resolution. I believe that's all they said that's coming specific to this game for the Switch 2, but that's fine. I don't personally care. I don't play Pokemon. But yeah, so it is nice, and again, that's probably going to. This one's not going to have as much of an effect on the sales of the Switch 1 version of the game, I feel like, just because it's just the resolution and frame rate. So they showed this, and we will be getting more, but these are what they showed. And yeah, they emphasized that it is getting physical and digital versions for the Switch 2 edition, or you can buy just the upgrade if you own the original Switch version, which I love. And I'm surprised that they're actually doing physical versions of these games, physical versions of Switch 2 editions. I would not have thought that. I figured it would be download only and the upgrade pack would just be a download. So I'm going to be getting any of these games that I get, which will probably just be Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and obviously Metroid Prime 4. I'm going to be getting those as physical, but it is nice to have the option if you just want the upgrade. So after giving us a look at the console itself and the enhanced versions of the games, which I love, Nintendo decided to show off a game that looks like it's basically a gimmicky game meant to show what the mouse controls can actually do. And this thing, it looks weird. So let's take a look here. If we take a look. So yeah, it's basically showing off that it's just mouse controls. And this one is a single player dual mouse, like you use both things yourself. And it's weird. It looks like it's basically wheelchair basketball. That is the best way I can describe it. It's wheelchair basketball. That you use the controllers as mice to move your chair around, do tricks and stuff, and even to throw the ball using the gyro controls. And also, they show off, waving and stuff. You can do all of that using the gyro. Basically meant as a gimmicky thing to show off what the controller can do. It's strange. It is very strange, and it's probably not going to be one of those games that people talk about for years to come. It's, it's not going to become a Nintendo classic. It's going to be kind of a gimmicky thing. But it looks fun. It actually looks really fun, and that's coming from someone who does not understand why people play basketball. Basketball to me is one of the most boring sports, even more boring than baseball. But it looks actually really neat. You can do they show off, you can do cool trick shots and stuff, and it's nice. It looks like something that I would actually probably want to get just to try out. But I have a feeling that, again, this is, I don't think, going to become a classic or anything. It's going to just kind of become one of those things that's like, oh, remember when Nintendo did that? So yeah, it's called Dragon Drive. It's a strange-looking game. I have a feeling that people are going to like it, but it's not going to be great. But yeah, I think it's mainly meant to show off what the controllers can do in mouse mode. Probably as a way to say, hey, you don't just need to use this as a first-person shooter thing. I don't think that's going to change that. I think this mouse mode is still going to mainly be used for first-person shooters. So after showing off that bizarre basketball game, Nintendo went through and they showed off a whole bunch of third-party games that are going to be coming to the console, both remakes and new games. I'm not really going to go over a lot of them, mainly because I don't have a lot of interest in them, but also there were a ton of third-party games shown here. So I'm not, if you really want to know what's in there, go watch the direct for yourself because it'll be a lot more in depth. But just to name a few, there's it looks like it's, I guess, a remake of Elden Ring. I've never played, and I probably will be picking this up because I've been kind of wanting to. So it's called the Elden Ring Tarnished Edition. It just says 2025. It doesn't say when in 2025 it's coming out. Let's see. There was also a Street Fighter 6 is coming out on the console, which is going to be pretty cool. I know a lot of people love the Street Fighter series. I personally am not a huge fan of fighting games, but I know a lot of people are going to be really excited to play this on the Switch too. There's a new Daemon X Machina game. I never played the original. I'm not really interested in this, but I know a lot of people love it, so that I assume it's a new one. I think it's a new one as far as I can tell. Again, I know nothing about those games. Hogwarts Legacy is coming to Switch 2 with mouse control support. That's something else I never played, but I actually kind of have been wanting to. My younger brother played it on the PC. I know he loves it. I've been wanting to get into it, and I think it's on the Switch. I was going to get the Switch version. I think it's on the Switch. But the fact that they're coming out with the Switch 2 version that has mouse control support, that is great. I will absolutely be getting that and playing it. And then, so one other big one they showed Madden in various EA Sports games, which I hate sports games. They showed Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4. But then, so they showed it is Hitman World of Assassination Signature Edition. I know nothing about the Hitman games. This looks like actually something I'd probably enjoy. Like, I probably will want to get this and play because this looks good. But at the end of this, they gave a tiny teaser for a new James Bond game coming to the Switch 2, which is fantastic. Now, I've not played much. There was one James Bond game I played on PC. I don't remember what it was called. I never played any of the Nintendo 60, either on the Nintendo 64. I never really got into James Bond games, but I want to. It's called Project 007, at least for now. I don't know if that's the actual name of the game, but I will absolutely be getting that and playing it. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, there were a lot more games, a lot more third-party games that were shown off here. I'm not going to go over all of them, but it's amazing the amount of games that are coming to this. And yes, some of them are remakes, some of them are remasters. But it's nice to know that we're getting a lot of games for the console, and we have a lot announced already. It's nice that they're showing off so many games right away as a way to convince people, hey, you want to get this, there's going to be a lot of great games, which it's good to know what we're getting before the console comes out. Including some that are available on launch day. But then they show off a game that they're working with a third-party studio, Koei Tecmo. Nintendo's working with them to produce and release, and it's something I am personally super excited for. It is a new Hyrule Warriors game, Age of Imprisonment. So we got Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity on the Switch, which I don't think I ever finished it actually, but it was pretty fun. As as the Warriors games go, this is the first Warriors game I ever played. It's very good. I enjoyed it. But they show off here now. The other one was the Age of Calamity was during the Great Calamity 100 years before Breath of the Wild. This one takes place during the Imprisoning War. So in Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda gets sent back in time to the founding of Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom. And again, there's all sorts of timeline issues that people complain about, but besides that, she gets sent back in time, and it's to this era that's known as the Imprisoning War. So this game tells that story where you play in that timeline that Zelda gets sent to in Tears of the Kingdom during the Imprisoning War, which is cool, because we saw some of that and how she was involved in some way with the Imprisoning War during various cutscenes of Zelda's memories in Tears of the Kingdom. We saw some of that, and it was really cool. But now we're getting an actual game set in that time period where we get to fight in the Imprisoning War, and it looks so good. I am so excited for this. Zelda fans had a great time with this Direct. Let's just say that. So yeah, it's called Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. So exciting. I don't think they actually gave... Oh yeah, they did say coming this winter. They didn't actually give a release date. I would personally wish it were coming a lot sooner, but that's probably going to be one of Nintendo's big holiday titles this year, which it's good. Anytime you have a Zelda game as a holiday title, I feel like they're going to be doing good. All right, so then Nintendo went over and another add-on for the Nintendo Switch Online. This is specific to the expansion pack, but they finally unveiled something that we've all been waiting for.
Switch 2. Please.
All of us have been wanting this. Yes, we are finally getting the Nintendo GameCube added to Nintendo Switch Online, something that people have been anticipating, and there were some leaks basically saying this is happening. It will be coming, and I'm super excited. So, we're getting, showed off some of the games we're getting at launch, starting with one that I'm both happy and sad about. So they showed off we are getting the Wind Waker at launch for this new add-on for Nintendo Switch Online. And I'm not, I'm as much as I'm happy that we're getting Wind Waker and they're acknowledging its existence again, I feel like that means that there's almost 0% chance that we're ever going to get Wind Waker HD on this new console, because now we have a way of playing it. I could be wrong. They may still bring it over from the Wii U, but I feel like this is almost proof that Wind Waker HD is going to remain a Wii U exclusive, which is fine. I think Nintendo needs to leave the Wii U at least one reason to exist. That's just my opinion. So then we're also getting Soul Calibur 2, which I've never played, but I know a lot of people love this game. That is, again, I believe these are all the games that are going to be available at launch for the GameCube Online. Let's see. Then, the next one, actually, I'm really excited for. F-Zero GX. I've been wanting to play this for a while. I love the original F-Zero. I've been wanting to play this one for a while. My GameCube collection is very small, so I don't have this yet. So I love that we're going to be getting this, and I am definitely going to be playing a lot of this. And again, the more love Nintendo shows F-Zero, the happier I'll be. Maybe they'll be able to bring the franchise back at some point. They do emphasize that for multiplayer games, you will be able to play online with friends, which of course we figured. But yeah, so it's good. It's about time that they're doing this. Oh, they pointed out that you can actually customize your controls, which I like. Because like this, I don't remember if you can customize your controls on the N64, but I have such a hard time doing N64 online because I never bought any of the controllers for the online stuff. And actually, speaking of that, they did specify that there will be a Nintendo GameCube controller available, and it will be available on the My Nintendo store on the same day as the Switch 2. This one I will be getting, and at the same time I'll probably also buy the N64 one, just because the Nintendo GameCube controller is one of the best controllers ever made, I think. It's so comfortable, it's so nice to use. Hopefully they include analog triggers on it. So yeah, that they are doing, and they do point out that this does have a C button for opening chat on it, so this is aimed more towards, oh, that's interesting. This is aimed more specifically towards the Nintendo Switch 2. I assume this will still be compatible with the Switch 1, but I don't know. That's interesting, though. They added a ZL button, because the original GameCube had one Z button on the right. They added a ZL button. I just noticed that. That's kind of neat. I don't know if that's really going to have much use, but whatever. Well, I guess that's if you want to use this for other Switch games that are compatible. Like, I would assume Mario Sunshine on 3D All-Stars probably you'll be able to use this with, which is good. Or Smash. Oh, actually, yeah, you'll probably be able to use that with Smash, which I know a lot of people will be happy about. So, after finally learning about GameCube for Nintendo Switch Online, which is something that we've been wanting for so long, Nintendo went through even more third-party games that are being added, such as Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4, Sid Meier's Civilization 7, and then there's a game that it froze during. But, so they went through, I'm not going to go through them here, but there are so many third-party games coming to this console. It's fantastic because Nintendo's actually, they're proving that there's a reason to buy it, that this console is going to have a lot of games. And, the fact that they're showing these off now means that at least most of them are probably going to be available either at launch or shortly after launch, which is good. It's showing that it's going to encourage people to buy the console right away instead of waiting, which I feel like is what this really needs. It's not going to be like the Wii U where nobody's going to buy it, hopefully. So then after all of these third-party games, and again, this is a lot of them. Some of them we already knew about for the Switch 1, and some of them that are already out. Nintendo showed off some really dark game. I don't understand what this is. It just looks bizarre, very dark, very gory and graphic. It is called The Duskbloods. I that's all I know about it. I don't know if this is like a brand new game or if this is something that's already out somewhere else, but it looks very gory, very graphic. This is probably why the rating thing at the beginning of the direct said it was rating pending to mature. This is why it's mature. I personally am not interested in this, and I will not be picking this up. But if this looks appealing to you, there you go. You got a nice dark game on your new console. And then Nintendo showed off what is, to me, the highlight of this direct. More than learning more about Mario Kart, more than getting an enhanced Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, this right here is the highlight of the direct for me. So we started out here. This very familiar sound. Everybody has got to know that. And you see a superstar from Kirby. So now, I'm watching this here during the direct. I'm like, okay, so that looks like a Kirby game. It's got to be Kirby, right? I was hoping for Mario, but it's Kirby. It's like, okay, that's Kirby. But then looking at the art style, I'm like, this almost looks like the same art style as Smash. Is this a new Smash game? But no, it's just focusing on Kirby, trying to get his superstar running. And then there's this. That showed up, and I instantly knew what this was. This is finally something I've been begging Nintendo to do for years. It is a sequel to Kirby Air Ride. So Kirby Air Ride was a Kirby racing game, a 3D Kirby racing game on the GameCube, and I love it. I mean, whenever we went over to I never had a GameCube growing up, but my cousins did, and one of the games they had that we loved playing anytime we went over there was Kirby Air Ride. There was the city trial mode where you go around the city, and we basically just goof off and like do hide and seek and stuff in it, but that's one of our favorite games to play when we would go over there with our cousins when we were younger, is Kirby Air Ride. And I love it. I have the game now on my own GameCube, and it's one of my favorites. So now we're getting Kirby Air Riders, and they specified that this is a sequel. It's not a remake, it is an actual sequel directed by Masahiro Sakurai. So this is what he's been working on, and I'm so happy. And it's coming this year, which is amazing. That's all they really told us about the game. But for me, that was actually the highlight of the direct, because I absolutely love Kirby Air Ride. It was one of my favorite games on the GameCube. It's so much fun, and it's nice to see that Nintendo's actually acknowledging its existence and giving us a sequel to it. And then we got something that I found a little bit weird. They gave us so this was the last announcement for the direct, and you would think it would be a 3D Mario game, but no, it actually wasn't. Weirdly enough, this is a new 3D Donkey Kong game called Donkey Kong Bonanza. And now this game has been rumored to be in development for a long time, and I think basically what the general consensus is, this is a lot of the team that developed Mario Odyssey has been working on this new 3D Donkey Kong, and that's why we haven't had a new 3D Mario since 2017, that they've been working on this. And I have a couple of mixed feelings. I know a lot of people love Donkey Kong games, and I personally do really enjoy them. But I feel like if you're launching this new console, you should launch it with the new 3D Mario. People have been begging for a new 3D Mario game for years. Yes, they've also been wanting a new Donkey Kong. But I think it's just bizarre that we're not getting in 3D Mario at launch. But we are getting this. So it's Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I haven't finished Donkey Kong 64, but as far as I can tell, this looks nothing like it. Basically, they emphasize that you smash your way through the world, basically destroy the world, break anything it looks like, emphasizing Donkey Kong's strength and just beating up things, which is cool. It looks like it's an open world game like Mario Odyssey, But it's weird that it doesn't look anything like the original Donkey Kong 64. Like, it doesn't look anything like the only other previous 3D Donkey Kong we've gotten. Which I guess isn't the end of the world. Ooh, I didn't even take note of this in the Direct, that there's 2D sections like Donkey Kong Country. But it's nice. It's really nice. It looks really good. I don't mind the new Donkey Kong art style. I know a lot of people have complained about it with Mario Kart, but I don't mind it. The thing that bothers me about this is, why is Donkey Kong wearing pants? The monkey doesn't wear pants. He wears a tie and that's it. But yeah, so this is something that people have been anticipating for a while. We were expecting to get a new 3D Donkey Kong on the Switch. There have been leaks and rumors that Nintendo is working on this for a long time. But it looks like they're making it an exclusive for the Switch 2, which is awesome. I don't remember what they said the release date is. I don't think they actually gave a release date. I think they just said 2025. Oh yeah, they did give a release date. That's right. So it comes out 12 days after the console, which is weird. So the only first party, I believe the only first party game we know of, well, maybe the basketball wheelchair thing, but Mario Kart is a launch title. I would have thought Nintendo would try and make the new Donkey Kong game a launch title, especially considering how important Donkey Kong is to the history of Nintendo as a whole. It's coming out 12 days later, though, so it's basically a launch title. I definitely will be picking this up, and I'll probably do a review on it when it comes out. So that is the final actual announcements. They did then go over briefly the hardware that will be available at launch. So they did briefly go over. So that we getting at launch will be available this, the regular Nintendo Switch 2 console, and then they say through the fall there will be a bundle with a download for Mario Kart World, which, I mean, that's kind of par for the course. Nintendo, basically, I think every year Nintendo has offered a Nintendo Switch bundle with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so it's kind of nice that they're carrying on the traditions. So they say this is the hardware that will be available at launch. They don't say the camera will be available, and they don't say that the Pro Controller will be available. Now, there are more details on the website, which I will be checking out, and maybe I'll be able to clear that up while editing this, but for now it looks like we're just getting the consoles and no Pro Controller at launch, which is fine. I don't really care. I'll play with just the Joy-Cons until the Pro Controller comes out if it's not available right away. So, my overall thoughts is that was an absolutely insane Direct. There was so much information. Like, I'm looking through my notes here. There is just so much that they told us about. But I think the biggest takeaway is the console is a lot more powerful and a lot, it's clearly a lot more powerful. Even, Nintendo, they didn't go like the Sony route and say, oh, you can, it's got, this many gigahertz and whatever. They say you got 4K 60, you got 1080 120, you got HDR, you got a bigger screen. Basically they brought this up to what people are expecting. This, people wanted a lot more powerful console. That's the main thing that people were hoping for, is having it be significantly more powerful than the original Switch. And basically we all knew that they kind of had to make it 4K at this point, just because everyone else is doing 4K. This is the first time Nintendo's doing it, so we kind of knew that this would be the case, but it is nice to get confirmation that the console is more powerful, and that is, in my mind, the biggest takeaway from this. I'm still concerned about the Joy-Con. So again, they did not address Joy-Con drift, which is bizarre. They specified that the joysticks were bigger, which is nice, because yeah, everything about the Joy-Cons are actually bigger now, which is great, because they were too tiny on the original Switch. I mean, looking at this, like this thing it's tiny. It's so cramped trying to play with it like this. So having them be bigger and having the bigger thumbstick is fantastic. That is great, and it's nice that they pointed that out. I just wish that they had addressed the drift issue, since besides the performance, that is probably the other thing that most people have been concerned about with this new Switch is, are they going to fix Joy-Con drift? Which, as far as we know, no, they have not done anything to address it. I feel like they probably have, and I know there have been press releases, and since the Direct has gone out, there's been the website's going live. There may be more info on there, and if there is, I'll be able to let you know. But that's my biggest concern with this Direct. Now, games wise, we got some great information about great games. The new Mario Kart looks amazing. Finally having an open world Mario Kart, it looks so much fun. It looks like so much fun. I'm definitely going to be picking that up day one. very happy about it. The 24-player mode, I don't really care about so much. It's more the open world and like the free roam mode is going to be so much fun. Let's see. I know a lot of people were, we got the chat feature. We got the chat features now on console, which is something that a lot of people did want. So it's nice that they listened to people and said, okay, fine, we'll give you this. I'm still concerned about the microphone, and maybe they'll have like an thing that you can, an external microphone that you can connect later on if they find it to be a problem. I'm sure there's going to be more information about what kind of setup you need, what kind of range you have for the microphone. But just being on the console, I still think is weird, and I have concerns about how well it's going to work. The camera for the chat, it's neat. Looks like it's got some neat technology. The fact that it can do the virtual backgrounds and insert you into the game, stuff like that. I think it's going to be kind of gimmicky like the Kinect, and it's not going to be that popular. Almost nobody's going to use it, and I feel like there's going to be very little support for it in games like the new Mario Party Enhanced, Mario Party Jamboree Enhanced, how it's got game modes that use the camera exclusively. I have a feeling there's going to be very few games that do stuff like that. It's mostly just going to be used for the chat, which is fine. And then, yeah, the fact that we got a lot of game announcements is great. And the biggest one besides Mario Kart for me, or the biggest two, are the Kirby Air Ride sequel, which I'm so excited about. I can't even describe how excited I am. I've been wanting Nintendo to acknowledge Kirby Air Ride's existence for years, and the fact that they were finally getting a sequel, like even if it was just a HD remake, I would have been happy. But a sequel is going to be so much fun. And then the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Enhanced. Well, there's all the the Nintendo Switch 2 editions, but the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom Enhanced are things that people have been wanting, and people have been anticipating that we're going to get it. I didn't really think it was necessary because I think the games are good on their own, but having the improved frame rate, improved resolution is going to be great. The HDR, though, is the big one for me with those games, just because the games, they're such beautiful games as they are, that having HDR support, it's going to be beautiful, and I'm really excited for it. But yeah, so that's really it. All I'm going to talk about. We're going to be getting more information. There is that that Mario Kart Direct coming out. I think they said April 17th is going to be that. And again, so it's a week from today, on April 9th, is when pre-orders are going live. I assume there will be more info about the specific timing based, on each website. So if you want to get on GameStop or Best Buy or whatever, I'm sure there'll be more information on those websites as we get closer to the actual pre-order launch date. Yeah, so that's all I have today. So definitely let me know your thoughts about this Direct down in the comments below. I'm very excited for this, and honestly, this is definitely well worth the wait. But yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And until next time, so long.